Okay, so welcome back everyone to let's call it the pilot episode of the Woolie Experience. I'm here with my co-host Diogo.
Hello.
And today we're joined by a charisma coach. His name's Jordan. Would you like to introduce yourself, mate?
Yeah, sure. No, thank you. So I am Jordan on TikTok. I put my TikTok in the description. But essentially, I help and coach people on how to communicate more effectively, how to be more confident, how to be less annoying, how to be less anxious in social settings. And yeah, I've kind of applied this in my own life and yeah, effectively kind of use those skills to try to help other people. So that's kind of short description.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I came across you. I think quite early on in the journey. I think you were under 500 followers, and I really
Yeah,
enjoyed your content. It's something
I
fresh
appreciate it.
that I hadn't really seen before. I mean, that was the reason it was on my For You page.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think when I started, I think initially the first few videos that I made weren't particularly, specifically around social skills. They were more just, I was more just trying to find what could work in terms of a lane for me. And so I think I was doing like gym content, I kind of tried a number of different
you started with gym
parts.
content, didn't you? That was your
Yeah, yeah.
framework
I kind of,
initially.
because that at the time, I think because I started maybe like a year and a half ago, that was quite a popular route, and you could make quite short videos with kind of snappy captions and a bit of audio, and kind of that would do well. But I think for me, the motivation, and I suppose we'll get onto this, but the motivation to do social skills content really came from just this idea that you ought to be doing something that like or you ought to be teaching other people something that other people have seen in you. So for me, a lot of people, like whenever I kind of meet new people, or and kind of even back then, I kind of was aware that people responded to me quite well, and so I thought teaching people how to be better communicators, to be more likable, would be something that I could have a good say in, because I
Absolutely.
think with whenever you're teaching something on social media or just in real life, for people to listen to you and to have a good impact, you obviously need to have a bit of authority, or you need for people to trust in what you're saying. And so, like versus kind of the gym content, I felt as though with the social skills stuff, it's like, okay, cool. I know that I come across well. That's kind of how people have what people have told me, right? So I felt more comfortable going down that route in terms of uh, giving that advice as opposed to kind of fitness or something else.
No, absolutely. All good stuff there, but let's dial it right back, right to the beginning. So let's
Yeah.
talk about school. So what was school like for you?
Well, so I'm from a small, well, relatively small, relatively kind of probably medium sized town in Buckinghamshire called High Wycombe, and High Wycombe is known for its schools. Um, but I didn't go to one of the schools that Buckinghamshire is known for, right? I went to just a regular school, at least for the first, well, for primary years, and then up till uh, GCSEs, up to kind of, so I left that school at well, after I finished my GCSEs. So yeah, so school was good. School was good. I mean, yeah, I had a lot of friends, and kind of yeah. I think me back then, I was in terms of like my personality, and I think a lot of people are kind of similar in that you just don't really know yourself. So
Mm,
I was kind of acting in ways and doing things that now when I look at, I view, I see the insecurity, you know, uh, and just it was always interesting to kind of look back at those times, and yeah, just see the growth in terms of, I guess, socially, and obviously other areas as well. But yeah, no, I was I was similar in the sense that I was still quite social,
mm.
um, and actually one of the main motivations of me going from the first school that I went to, this kind of secondary school, to the other school, which was like a grammar school, was that I had a lot of friends at that grammar school, I had a lot of friends who were from kind of different schools, and so my best friends weren't actually from the school that I was in. So that kind of secondary school that I was at from I think 11 to what 16.
Mm,
Even though I had friends there, most of my friends, kind of especially towards the end, were from other schools, and I ended up
mm.
going to one of those schools. So
Interesting. I
yeah.
mean,
So
yeah, no,
sorry.
no. I was going to say, it's kind of said that early on we mimic social behaviors kind of from our parents. Did you find that? Are your parents quite outgoing, quite
Yeah.
confident?
Well, so yeah. So I grew up just with my dad, and so I have a sister, and then I have a dad. And then so my dad is quite similar in that he is quite charming. He's quite likable in that sense. And yeah, I agree in that, we do mimic our parents in many ways. And so even
Mm.
just in the way that maybe I speak, or kind of the small phrases that I'll say, or I definitely do think I mimic my dad
And
quite
the
a
reason I
bit.
say that is because obviously Diogo, he's quite, I think he's quite a charismatic guy, but I know his dad specifically is like a very charismatic person, and you do see the link between them. So it is interesting, and especially that early on in your life, that's where you're
Yeah,
getting everything from. That's what you're repeating.
exactly, exactly. I think, I mean, just watching my dad, or observing my dad when he was with his friends, or when he would communicate with other people, um, that certainly must have made an impact. But I think even from a very young age, kind of my mum's side of the family, kind of even now always say that back then I was uh, very kind of confident. Really, I
Yeah.
kind of had that vibe from being really young.
Mm.
So
That
yeah.
that was a question I was going to ask actually. Do you feel like, I mean, that's always been with you, that side where you feel like you have like that social like
Yeah,
connection with people, and you have
Lubricants.
that charm, like that, is that something that
yeah,
you always had growing up, like, and you've never that's never been something that you've struggled with at all?
yeah. I think so. I think that would be correct to say. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's similar to when, like, for example, if you are at school, if you're good at football,
Mm.
you might kind of just be above average, right? And then other people then associate you with being good at football, right? Like, your teachers, and like kind of everyone reinforces that you are good at football. And so that then becomes maybe part of your identity. You're like, okay, cool. I guess I'm good at football. And then that makes you want to work harder at it, and almost study it more. I think in a similar sense, that's what's happened with me in terms of, I guess, my social life. Because yeah, I've always, like, people have always said that, oh, you're quite confident.
Yeah.
And and so now, so having kind of received that kind of feedback, or those compliments, or I wouldn't say necessarily even compliments, but just people responding to me in that way, and,
Yeah.
and describing me in a certain way, that's almost made me lean more into it,
Mm.
and
I think
kind
the
of
thing that, sorry,
go
mate,
for
So,
to cut you off there, the thing that interests me about what you're saying there, when you're saying I received compliments, people were telling me, was that not
yeah.
something that you recognize with it? Was it always a thing of, oh, I'm being told this, so it must be true?
Probably a bit of both. I mean, probably a bit of both. But actually, what's interesting is that, so when I was younger, and I didn't kind of go into detail with this kind of when you asked earlier, but yeah, when I was younger, um, I was I was outgoing, and I was kind of happy. I was never kind of nervous or anything like that, speaking to people as such. But I was actually more arrogant than confident. And the thing about arrogance is that a lot of arrogance is actually just insecurity. So even though I had the polish of being able to just speak to people, and I was confident in that sense, um, I was I was probably more on the insecure side, and that showed almost in my arrogance, if you get
Mm.
what I mean.
Interesting. Um,
I have a quick question here. Um, So your focus on your account is to give advice, right? You give
Yeah.
advice to people, and you want to help people that are in a position that they don't feel too confident in themselves, or they feel like they lack any sort of charm and charisma and conversation.
Yeah.
Why do you think you're qualified? Like, why do you
Mm.
think you're qualified to give this advice if that's something you've always held with you growing up? Because surely from that position, someone will
Mhm.
need to hear advice from someone who's developed that themselves. Now,
Yeah.
you just mentioned that you feel like you've leaned into it more. So maybe you have grown into that, not character, and we can even talk about this later, but you've
Mm.
grown into that character a little bit more growing up as you've matured.
Yeah.
But do you think that you're in the position to give people who are in situations that you've never actually maybe personally experienced,
Mhm.
are you in that position to give them advice? I just want to hear your
Good
opinion.
question. Yeah, good question. I think I am in a position to give that person advice. Whether
Yeah,
I'm in a better position to give that person advice than someone who might have gone from 0 to 100,
yeah,
that's a different question. I mean, you could make the argument that the other person who has completely transformed from being like really, really shy and
yeah,
introverted to being really switched on when it comes to meeting people and kind of not having any
yeah,
issues
yeah,
and being genuinely charismatic. You
yeah,
could make the argument that yeah, that person is better placed. But I think for me, it's all about and I just as you said, kind of what I said earlier to leaning into
yeah,
the kind of confidence and everything. And I think, like with anything, it's something that can be learned. So, like, did the fact that I maybe had a better starting point,
yeah,
whatever you might kind of uh, conceive that as being, but
yeah.
does that make me less qualified to talk about social skills when I've done the same amount of research and like study as maybe the other person who started off
Yeah.
being, so
Mhm.
because it's not it's
You,
not like it's not like it's something that you strictly have to just solely experience
yeah,
and then you teach. It's like you have your own experiences, but then you also learn new things. You also research into actual kind of methods and almost like the psychology behind it. And
100%.
that's that's almost where the authority comes from.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you've learned things and you've applied them in your life. And I think you can do that
You've
whatever
still got
level
something,
you are.
yeah, you've still got something to offer people. I mean, regardless
Yes.
if like you've come from zero to hero or not, you've still got something to offer and a valid
Yeah.
opinion.
Because
Yeah,
because
yeah,
because I think there's a difference between someone who is just naturally confident
yeah,
and almost doesn't know the mechanism behind it, right? So
yeah,
like someone is just naturally confident and that's just it. That they were just
yeah,
born that way. But
yeah,
if you're naturally confident, but then you also understand why and how you are
yeah,
confident and why
yeah,
people perceive you as being that way,
yeah.
then obviously that's a deeper level of knowledge that you can actually share with people and it would be
I see.
valuable.
Guys,
So
I have
this
a
is
follow. Sorry, I don't want to disrupt the flow. I'm really sorry,
this
but
is sorry, I'm trying to get this question in. So
okay, no problem.
you've put a lot of thought into this. This isn't something where it's like,
Yeah,
oh, I've
yeah,
been
yeah,
given
correct.
some compliments and I just want to now kind of just spew my ideas into
Yeah,
words. This
yeah,
is
yeah,
something you've actually like meticulously thought through and
yeah,
almost like you've created like almost a formula maybe or just like a recipe where you've been like, okay, well, this is what worked when I said this, and like
yeah,
this is something you've really put thought into.
yeah. Because I think to be a good content creator, you have to go to that level of trying to understand
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
and I
100%.
I think that's what I do. I mean, like for example, when I meet new people, or
Yeah,
just when I'm in different social settings, because of the fact that I have this page,
yeah,
I am almost more aware of the things that people are doing,
yeah.
and I kind of take mental notes. And that's some of my best videos have come from me just being at like an after party or something, and
Mm.
just observing people communicate, and then how the other people there have responded to that person.
Mm.
You
So
know.
what do you think what do you think started this kind of analyzation of some
Uh,
social
Can we just
interactions? Because
pause
I
that?
feel
Sorry,
like a
guys.
lot of
All I was going
people
to
don't
say is,
realize.
All I was going to say is we're running out of, they only give you like 20 minutes of recording on Zoom.
Oh, crud.
So I was just going to say, like, would there be any chance we can move to Teams? But to hold that question.
Wait,
I mean,
and redo it?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
Not redo it, but just carry on, but on Teams.
well,
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I'd have to download Teams. I don't have Teams on my phone.
Ah, okay. Is there
I'd
any
be a
other
bit
like
faff.
software that we could do?
what, can we just end this recording and then start a new one?
Yeah,
Just
look, I
take
think
a break.
Can you do that?
yeah,
I'm not sure
well,
about
you
that.
should be able to. You must be
We've
able to.
we've got 4 minutes. Let's just end this little conversation point and then we get on to the next one
Yeah,
and
Okay.
then start a new recording, if that's okay.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, sure.
So yeah, so what made you why did you become like I don't want to say hyper but like these awarenesses, like what do you think like
yeah.
started that? 'Cause a
Well,
lot of
I
people
think
just
yeah,
socialize and
yeah.
just here or there.
I think naturally I am an overthinker.
Yeah,
I think I do often. I think
same.
with everything, yeah, I do like to kind of analyze and think a bit deeper, not in a kind of pretentious way of like, oh, I'm so like intellectually curious, but
Yeah.
I do just think about this stuff quite a lot,
Mm.
and I just find
Mm.
it interesting, to be honest. So I think
Yeah.
that's probably the main motivation. And I
But
think once you really understand it and you know how to apply it,
yeah.
it's almost a superpower. So I think it's worth knowing about. It's worth kind of studying and yeah, having that awareness of.
But do you
Mhm.
feel like something ticked that off, whereas like maybe you had like a situation that was like, oh crud, or have you always had that
Um,
overthink, like especially for social situations? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people, I'm not sure if everyone has that. That's
Okay. So yeah. So
people
so
do.
I can tell you. Are we good for time?
We've got 3 minutes.
We've got three.
Okay, yeah. So I can tell you a quick story. So a few
Yeah,
years ago, I was out with my best friend, and we were
yeah,
with these girls, right? So I think one of the girls was a girl that he was seeing, and then
yeah.
her friend, and then maybe like a few other girls who were kind of tagging along.
Mm.
And this was after the club, we were in McDonald's,
Yeah.
and basically one of the girls, she asked me whether I wanted any McDonald's, and I kind of said no, but then she kept pressing me on like why I didn't want McDonald's, and
Okay.
so we kind of got into an argument basically. I kind
Yeah,
of don't want to say exactly kind of what it was about, but effectively we got into a bit of a heated kind of discussion,
yeah,
and I got quite riled up. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy, but there was a lot of tension at this point. So this was maybe I don't know, like maybe 3 years ago. And to be fair,
mm,
I've had probably numerous situations just in my lifetime
yeah,
where things have gotten heated, things have gotten weird,
yeah.
kind of out of nowhere. And since that point, so that this literally like 2 3 years ago, I haven't really like argued with anyone,
Okay,
which is crazy to say. Like I haven't been in an argument
right.
really. Like obviously at work or something is kind of different, but in my personal life,
Yeah,
like what that taught me is to not get into those situations. Like if someone has an opinion and you have a different opinion, you can debate it if you want, and if you're interested in having a good faith debate, like that's not what I'm
yeah.
talking about. But in terms of there being that tension and you're trying to prove your point and they're trying to prove their point.
Mm,
You talk about kind of authenticity, well, not authenticity, but charisma and kind of you not getting into arguments, right? Very recently. What I was going to say, when I think about charisma,
Mhm.
I think about the most charismatic people I know. They will, they will not be afraid of that kind of confrontation and kind of letting their true opinions out and filtering themselves. What are your thoughts on that? Hello?
oh, he's left.
Oh, he's.
Oh, he's
Sorry,
back.
I don't know what happened there.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did hear the question. Is this the recording?
Yeah, yeah, it's recording, yeah.
Should we redo that bit?
No, no, it's fine. If you heard the question, then you can just answer it. That's all
I,
good.
I don't think I heard the question. I don't.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't hear the end of it. Yeah.
Well, you speak
Repeat
of no, it's all good. You speak
Yeah.
about kind of the fact that you haven't really got into confrontations and arguments
Yeah.
in 2 years in your personal life. But
Yeah.
what that kind of I think, the most kind of authentically charismatic people, or even manufactured charismatic people, whatever it is that I
Yeah.
know, they're not afraid to have that natural disagreement if there is a disagreement there, or that argument or confrontation, because
Mhm.
that's them being authentic, and you kind of respect them more for that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's not about being afraid to have an argument or kind of a disagreement. I mean, and I think if we're talking specifically kind of just about being social and being likable kind of amongst kind of platonic friends or in that sort of situation, then yeah, like it's not about being afraid to kind of have that disagreement and that tension. It's more that you've got to think what is going to uh, actually make the interaction and the conversation better, and what is going to make it worse, and what is it worth it to have an argument? That's kind of the main question,
Mm,
because my perspective would be that, so if we take it back to kind of the situation that I described, right? I had one point, and she disagreed with that, right? So, and obviously that's typically how arguments go, right? There are two conflicting points of view. Now, when it comes to that, right, my perspective on kind of charisma, on likability, on confidence, is that you should almost be like, when you're interacting with people, you should almost be above the conversation, not in the conversation. So what that means is that when someone disagrees with you, or kind of someone tries to throw you off guard, or kind of say something a bit funny, right? If you take it seriously and if you engage that person, right, and you kind of get into an argument, you are then stooping, you are now in the conversation, right? You are now kind of fighting with them, and it's almost like a frame battle, because you have one view, they have another view, and what you're essentially doing, and what you're showing by being so keen to get into this argument, what you're showing is that you need that other person to agree with you. You need that other person to see your point of view, right? Whereas if you're genuinely like deeply confident, then it wouldn't matter to you whether that person disagreed with you, whether that person thought that your point of view was stupid, right?
mm.
But you just wouldn't, it just wouldn't really register to you. You would just kind of, if you knew that you were right, right? So like, for example, if you said that my hoodie is rubbish, right? This hoodie here, I'm not gonna, because I in my mind I know that this hoodie is fine, right? And I've got the confidence that this is a nice hoodie, right? It's just an ordinary hoodie, but I bought this hoodie, I like this hoodie. I'm not then going to try to get into a confidence. I'm not trying to convince you that this hoodie is nice, because I already know that the hoodie's nice. So the fact that you don't think the hoodie's nice, like that, I'm not interested in changing your perspective, because it doesn't mean anything to me.
And that
You
comes
know?
from within, because as you were saying earlier, you realize you were charismatic because other people were telling you were charismatic.
Yeah.
If we apply that analogy to what we've just been talking about,
Hmm.
I mean, it's kind of two different things. Like, does it have to kind of come from within to be that true, authentic confidence? Or can it be, you've walked down the street and everyone's been telling you your hoodie looks great today, so you know your hoodie's great? Or is it you truly feel and you believe your hoodie's great?
Good question. I think a bit of both. I think a bit of both. I think obviously if your view doesn't align with the actual reality, then it is going to be hard for you to maintain that view, right? And 'cause, unless you're like delusional, right? So there's an element of, yes, kind of the feedback you get from other people, and I think that then almost informs your own self-image, or like your view of the world, right? Like, so for example, if since you were young, everyone has said that you're really good looking, then you're naturally just going to think you're good looking, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and it's almost like a cyclical sort of thing. It kind of reinforces your view, and then you become like, so for me, you know, I've become more confident and, you know, more daring in social situations because I feel like I've got the capability, because that's the confidence that people have kind of put on me almost,
No, absolutely.
in the way that they describe me. So
Absolutely.
so it kind of, you start to think, oh, okay, well, why wouldn't I, you know, lean into this, and why wouldn't I go and approach that person or take the lead in this situation or say that joke, because
Mm.
it's already been that positive that positive cycle has already been reinforced,
Yeah, no,
you know.
absolutely.
So
I
so
think Diogo,
it's a bit of
sorry.
both.
I think Diogo, did you have a question before we had to end the call?
No, not that I can't remember.
What I was going to kind of talk about was we were kind of talking in the last call about kind of manufacturing this charisma, manufacturing social
Yeah.
skills. And all it makes me think of at the moment is it is clavicular, right? Like that kind of
Yeah.
manufacturing that perfection. And
Okay.
it's really interesting because when I look at clavicular, I don't think, you know, you're a genuine, I think you're just like a, and I don't take clavicular seriously for that reason. But I was just kind of, do you think like quantifying charisma and social skills is a genuinely good thing to do? Do you think it sacrifices
Um,
your your own kind of self in a way?
yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how you perceive it, how you go about it. I mean, the idea isn't to try to transform into someone completely different, right? Like the kind of vibe behind my channel, my page, is around trying to understand these things, trying to understand just, you know, the psychology almost behind, and there's just like the logic almost behind certain things, like why someone might appear annoying or why someone might be likable, and kind of showing people and giving people a pool of things that they can take from and they can use in their own lives to be more confident, or to be less annoying, for example. But I always say, kind of in some of my videos especially, I say, if you know, if you don't want to, if you don't care about what other people think, and you just want to be yourself, um, then that's a completely legitimate approach.
Mm.
But and especially now, just kind of in my life, just looking at other things as well, I think you don't get any points for, you know, being yourself. I think life is all about adapting to scenarios to be the most effective, right?
Mm.
Um, so if you're completely being a different person, then obviously that you won't be able to keep it up. But if you are looking at things, whether it's your social skills, whether it's your looks, like a clavicular does, with an idea of improving them, right? And actually kind of making your life better by improving them, then I don't think that's a negative thing. So I think it's more just about your approach,
Mm.
you know?
Absolutely.
And I think,
I
yeah,
have one question on that. I mean, just touched on what you've just said there. I've seen on your channel, you've got a lot of these videos where it's like, oh, say this in this situation and say that in that situation, right?
right.
And I mean, at the end of the day, these little tips and tricks, they're nice, but they are slightly performative.
Okay.
And I mean, I understand that maybe you can like, if you can like really solidify that into your like habits and like who you are, then it
Hmm.
could be beneficial. But
Yeah.
what are the chances and how like plausible is it for someone to really remember these tips and remember these tricks and incorporate them and
Yeah.
it make a positive change in their life? Because I think if I'm living my day-to-day life, I'm not, and a situation happens where it's like, oh, I'm not going to be there thinking, let me say that, you know.
Yeah,
And do
yeah,
you think this advice is really, I mean, is really going to like take someone to the next level of socializing? Do you
yeah.
think,
Well,
or
yeah. Well, I think it depends. I mean, I think
how sorry,
yeah,
let me just finish up. How much of it is like an internal work of building that self-confidence and building that, because in my opinion, I think to be confident, to be social, it's an internal
mm,
thing. And it
yeah,
doesn't really matter if you've got these quirks or like, I don't think it matters so much what you say, it's how you say it and how you're
yeah.
perceived and how you carry yourself, right? So it's like, how much of these little tips and tricks just like a placeholder or a bit of a superficiality and compared to like the internal work that you have to make in order to really truly be confident.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. So good point. So I think there's a number of things. I think the first thing I would say is that yes, being confident and kind of feeling good about yourself, right, to
Yeah,
the point that you are pleasant to be around.
yeah,
Of course, 90% of that is just your own self-image. It's the way that you perceive yourself, and the way that you improve that is, of course, through good habits, avoiding bad habits,
yeah,
discipline, showing up for yourself every day, right?
yeah,
That is
100%.
is absolute. And so, and of course, that ought to be the priority. Um, and the point of my channel isn't to say that you can skip all of that stuff and then just say like this one line and people will like you. It's not so much about that. Um, and I would say this. The second thing I would say is that when it comes to my videos and kind of me saying, oh, say this. Typically, I'm not just saying, oh, just say this.
Yeah,
I'm saying that, but then I'm also giving you the logic behind it, right? I'm giving you the reasoning behind it, like the psychology
yeah,
almost.
yeah.
And I think that is something that people can take away. So even if they don't remember
Okay.
remember the line,
Yeah,
you know, they can almost they can understand where that's coming from and kind of how to apply that
yeah,
in their own way, right? I mean,
yeah,
again, being confident, being likable. I mean, you can't go from just ground zero to learning a few lines and being confident. That's not how it works. And
yeah,
that's not kind of when I make my videos, that's not my intention, right? It's more about different tips and tricks you can use.
yeah,
Because why wouldn't you?
Mm.
Well, it's just interesting to kind of know and to apply and to experiment with. I think that's also something that's important. So yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. No, Jordan, I was keen to hear your opinion. I was going to hit you with a scenario here for the
Yeah.
personal thing. Before university, I was a confident guy, but I wanted to take it to the next level at uni. I wanted to be like the kind of stereotypical, really likable, really popular person, which now
Yeah.
thinking back on it is pointless because it's university. But I kind of went into it with the mindset of, right, I'm going to just be people first and I'm going to just ask questions and be hyper interested in people. And,
Hmm.
I was meeting people, I was only asking them questions and I wasn't really talking about myself because I thought, well, that's not how you be charismatic. That's not how you be likable. You have to make people feel like they're the only person in the room, right? But then people would kind of start to say to me, yeah, Nathan, I like you, but I don't know anything about you. Right. I don't know what your favorite color is. I don't know what you like to eat. I don't know. What I mean? There's these kind of things
Okay.
because I hadn't said anything about myself. It was just purely me asking them questions. And that's not from a place of insecurity or,
Mm.
I don't want to talk about myself. It's just because I thought that was kind of the playbook in how to make someone feel special and how to make someone like you. I was kind of
Right.
wondering what your thoughts were on that. I mean, I'm sure you have an opinion.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there has to be some semblance of balance, maybe. I mean, how realistic is it that you are completely mysterious? I mean, typically, if you're in a conversation with someone, even if the focus is on them, they will want to learn more about you. But I think you were kind of on the right path in terms of trying to focus on the other person. Um, I think maybe they just didn't do a good job in putting it back to you and kind of engaging you in the right way. But I think in a lot of my kind of interactions, like for example, I've been on dates where we're like 3 dates in and the girl doesn't know what I do for work, right? So I think not knowing certain kind of logical things about the other person isn't necessarily a sign that the conversation isn't good or that you haven't succeeded in being likable or kind of whatever that goal is. I actually think it's more the other way around in that when you just talk about kind of random things and both people are interested in each other, then you will just randomly touch on different things, and some of those things might be relevant to you and might be things that you've experienced, and kind of that's how you get to know
Mm.
each other, right? Yeah, I mean, I could say another thing about that. I would say a lot of people who are anxious, the reason they are anxious is because they are thinking too much about themselves, right? They are focused on themselves. Like when they're speaking to someone, they're thinking, oh, does my hair look all right? Is there something in my teeth? All of that
Which
type
isn't, sorry, which is an interesting question, which is an interesting point you make, because I mean, in my head, surely by having these thought processes of, oh, I need to be more charismatic or this thing, you're gonna be in your head. That's like it's
yeah.
counterintuitive, and I completely agree with you. Where it's like, look, in my opinion, in order to be actually like the most social people, they're not thinking about what they're saying, right? They're just going and having fun with it and doing their thing. If you're
Mhm.
analyzing this too much and you're too methodical and you're thinking, then like, can you really achieve your desired goal? Which was gonna like go to a question I was about to ask you. I mean, do you really think that real charisma, forget confidence, because I think people can generally become more confident in themselves over time. But do you think
Mhm.
charisma, can that be taught? Can that be taught methodically? I'm guessing that's kind of your job, right? But do you
Yeah,
think, yeah, you think that it can
absolutely.
be taught?
It's an
Yeah.
interesting question, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Because,
mean,
but like,
yeah,
isn't that counterintuitive? And how much of it is just practice and just getting out there and
a
just
lot of it,
speaking to people? Yeah,
most of it is practice. I mean, I think, yeah, more of it is practice than is watching my videos and trying to kind
yeah,
of take notes of say this line
Yeah.
or that line. I think the way that you, or at least like for me, the way that I personally have got better at social skills is just by, as I said, like really thinking about this stuff, really like observing this stuff when I've been out and just experiences that I've had, learning from them, and then applying that. So yeah, I think it's tricky. I mean, it kind of depends on your approach. It
yeah,
depends on your approach. I mean, the right approach when kind of consuming some of this content isn't to think, okay, well, I'll just say this
yeah,
and I'll be fine, or I need to, next time in a conversation, I need to really deeply, think about this stuff
yeah,
as I'm talking. It's not about that. It's more to, again, understand some of these frameworks
yeah.
and understand exactly, yeah, how you might be coming across,
Right.
right? And using that in conjunction with your actual experiences with people over time, to get better, right?
Mhm.
Because I think,
Yeah,
if
both.
yeah, if you're in a conversation, for example, like if you're in a group setting, with some strangers, right? It's not as though you're in a rush. You need to be in a rush to speak or to interact. Like you can, or let's say you're on a date, like you can sit back, relax, and
Yeah,
as you're speaking to that person, you can observe, you can tailor your behavior, not in a way that's fake, but you can be aware of these things and kind of like fine tune these things and pick up on things,
But then,
yeah,
but
right?
then with that, are you inherently interested in them, or are you inherently interested in your objective
yeah.
with
Like how
them?
you're being perceived, you know?
Are you talking about me or are you talking just
Well,
like
that
general?
scenario you mentioned when you're on a date and you're thinking where you can kind of tailor yourself, not in a manufactured way,
Yeah,
but I feel like with me, if I'm genuinely interested in that person, I'm not even thinking like about what they're saying. I'm just trying to experience them and just kind of take everything in.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
not
Well,
kind of like you say earlier, your analogy of are you in the conversation or you're above the conversation? When I'm on a date, I want to be in the conversation because I want to
Mhm.
try and connect with this person as much as I
yeah,
can.
yeah. Well, so when I said in the conversation that versus above the conversation. I was specifically talking about, when someone says something that is maybe controversial or something that is tearing you down a peg. That's kind of what I meant. I mean, if you're having a conversation with someone, then as we're talking now, obviously I'm engaged with what you're saying, right? Of course, that wasn't the point of that. I think where I'm at now, kind of, if you're asking me personally, I think once you have experienced a lot of this stuff and once it's kind of ingrained, it always becomes second nature, right? It's not something, like, for me, it's not something that I'm like truly deeply thinking about to that degree, because it's something that I've ingrained at this point in terms of speaking to people, right? So yes, I'm aware of certain things and certain dynamics, but I am kind of still, in a sense, being myself, because the person that I am is the person who has also experienced these previous interactions. So I kind of can be that person in a natural way. I think if you're coming into this like with no like human experience or like interaction, then I think that's going to be, or kind of, you've always been quite introverted and then you're trying to become someone who is super extroverted, that's too big a leap in too short a time, right? So when you were saying, oh, can someone become charismatic? It's like, yeah, someone can become charismatic, but that's not going to happen overnight just by studying these things and by like being super focused on in an interaction. It comes over time. It comes once you've had many interactions and you've fully ingrained these things. Yes, that's what I'd say on that.
Let's talk about, I mean, do you mind if we talk about your career?
Yeah, I was going to say we've got a few, I think, interesting questions that we can ask. I mean, let's go on that, but then afterwards touch on some of these questions on the docs.
Okay, I was going to bring it to sales. Sales is inherently, I mean, you can learn sales. I can go on YouTube and I can watch a 7-hour course and I can learn how to sell something. How much of kind of what you do in your framework for charisma, how much of that have you brought into sales itself and kind of merged it with the art of sales? Because the art of the deal, I mean, it's been around for centuries.
Yeah. Well, of course, I mean, I suppose when you're selling something, it's kind of a different dynamic in that you want something from them, right? Like you want a sale, right? So,
but the date idea, sorry to cut the date idea, I kind of see that. Maybe I'm thinking of it wrong, but I kind of see that sometimes as the same. You're selling yourself on a date to an extent, aren't you, as well?
yeah, but I almost think that's the wrong frame.
Yeah, me too.
To think about dating in.
Maybe.
So when you're on a date, the more that you sell yourself, right, the more insecure you're going to look, because it's you are trying to shift that person's perception of you, right, which is something that I talk about a lot. So, and it goes back to kind of what I was saying about, let's say if you said that this hoodie was rubbish, right? If you care too much about people's perceptions of you, and it's ironic because obviously the pursuit of being more charismatic is you caring about what other people think of you. So, but in terms of how you ought to come across, like whether you're on a date, whether you're just in a social setting, right, you shouldn't come across like you need that person's validation, like you're trying to show the other person or the other people how great you are, all of the things that you have going on, right? Because the more that you do that, the more insecure you're going to be perceived as, because it seems as though you're trying to compensate for something. The best way to be, and the way that I try to be, is to to never brag, to never kind of go out of my way to state. Obviously, this kind of situation is different because we're talking specifically about me, and I'm being honest because I'm trying to give an honest depiction of things. But in terms of just in an ordinary kind of social setting, right, or on a date, you don't want to be selling yourself, or at least it shouldn't appear that way,
Well, let's
because
draw that back to the to my original sales question because I was intrigued to
yeah,
hear what you were saying on that.
yeah. Well, so I mean, yeah, certainly in terms of kind of having conviction in the way you speak, being persuasive, communicating clearly. I mean, all of those things are going to translate well to sales, of course. So, uh, but then I think also in terms of a lot of sales is around objection handling. So you need to listen to people and understand exactly why their pain points, but then also why maybe they wouldn't buy from you, what the reasons they have for not buying something from you. So and then you need to get around those things. So a lot of it is again persuasion. It's giving people the chance to hear you out and not trying to just again not
Yeah,
seeming desperate, right? So when you are selling something or when you're just in a so like you never want to appear like you need the
Mm.
other person's validation or you need this sale,
Yeah.
right? It's about the other person's kind of experience, right? It's about what might be best for them,
it's
what's best for the
interesting.
interaction.
You know, I had
You
a
know,
friend who he was kind of the inverse of you. He had a job in sales, and then he kind of took the methods such as I'm sure you know, like yes theory, relationship building, all these kind of
yeah,
things.
yes,
And
ladder, yeah,
he started applying them to his real life, and then he started seeing more social success from being
yeah,
in sales. So he kind of did it the reverse way, which I thought was interesting. And he was trying to tell me, well, if you want to get someone to like you, just get them to say yes 3 times, all that kind of thing. So
yeah.
it kind
Well,
of
well,
works
that
both
that's
ways.
yeah, well, that's kind of simply compliance. If you get someone to comply with you, then you're kind of building that trust. You're building a kind of like dynamic in which you are leading them, right? Because that you're asking them questions, they're saying yes, or
It isn't as simple as that, though, obviously. Like it is, I think it
no,
is
no,
quite
yeah,
a psychological thing.
yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. But I think at its core, it does come down to the person trusting you and you almost kind of leading them, and like through that, they then trust you more, and because you're building that relationship up, you're like the intensity of the relationship is going up because that person then um, trusts you. So and also I think maybe we're speaking about kind of different things. I'm thinking about it almost in the sense of, let's say you're on a date and you know you're taking the person to like different venues, and you ask the person to like sit close to you and they say yes, and it's like a yes ladder, and kind of that's almost how you might escalate a situation like that, right? A date or something. And in that situation, what you're doing is you're by escalating in those increments and by getting that person compliance, you're building their trust,
Mm,
and you're intensifying the relationship, but in a kind of like subtle way that
yeah,
builds comfort because
absolutely.
it's incremental. So
Do
so
you,
yeah,
do you do you believe that every naturally charismatic person could go into sales and fly?
not necessarily, because I think a lot of sales is also just about discipline and about the amount that you put in.
Mm,
So I think, yeah, if someone is charismatic, then they obviously have the raw material to do well because that's what you need. But I think you also need to be concise. You also need to be direct, and yeah, you need to have the discipline to actually make the calls. And as well as that, you need to be comfortable with rejection.
absolutely.
Another thing. So
I think Diogo you had some questions, some kind of
Yeah, I think we've got a few questions that we set out prior to this that I think we
yeah.
could focus on.
mhm.
And sorry about that. Uh, Nathan, I think maybe you could lay these out, being the
Yeah.
kind of like you could
Are
ask
the
these.
psychological the
Yeah,
psychological aspect.
some of these questions that we got on the docs, we could count this out by the way, this little bit.
Um,
I mean, like this little quick fire round section. I think we could ask maybe a couple of them,
Okay.
and then
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I guess you want to try and wrap it up in this 6 minutes we've got.
um we'll see.
Okay. I guess so, yeah. Some quick fire questions for you then, mate.
Okay.
Uh, Biggest social mistake that men make, in your opinion?
Mm. I would say trying too hard.
Trying too hard.
Trying too hard, yeah.
Okay. Most overrated dating advice.
God. Most overrated dating advice. Mm. I'm not sure actually. Overrated dating advice. I think a lot of dating advice is around the external, right? So, I mean, when you hear about men's advice, a lot of it isn't even about dating. It's about kind of leading with things that are external. So whether it's your money, whether it's your looks, and I think though those things are very important to get your like foot in the door, as it were, I think a lot of attraction is around. This is supposed to be quick fire. A lot of attraction is around your internal kind of strength, and that is what a woman is filtering for beyond just your looks or your money. So I think date like the biggest dating mistake maybe or overrated kind of dating tip is to just focus on like money and think that money and looks will just have everything be fine when
Yeah.
it's about more than that.
I think I can probably guess your answer to this, but do you think body language matters more than words?
Yeah, I would say so. Yes.
Oh, okay, that's surprising.
Yeah, body language. I mean, because body language encompasses a lot of things.
See, I
Even
think
just
body language is when I think of I don't think learning like thinking consciously about body language would look extremely unnatural. I think as hard as you try. Like I
yeah,
think
but
body
that's
language
that's
is
not.
always something that's very a reflection of just your internal state.
But that's why it says more about everything than the words you say. Because I mean, it kind of depends if you're including the way you say the words in that. Then maybe it's a tie. But I think body language is very important. Not in the sense that you ought to maybe try too hard and be conscious. As you said, it's simply a reflection of how you're feeling internally. But I think because it is such a key signal of how you're feeling internally, if your body language is off, then that's going to do a lot of damage, even if you're saying the right things.
Absolutely. Was there any
Yeah.
more that you had, Diogo?
Um, I think we can. I think we should ask this, and then maybe we can take up the rest of the time. We've got about 3.5 minutes left. You could we could answer this question and that, and then we just do one more call just to kind of start finalizing and just kind of summarize. And
Mhm.
so I think a big question is on a personal thing now on your channel. I mean,
Mhm.
where do you see this account and this project? I mean, where do you see this going long term? What are your goals?
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately the goal is to help people, right? I mean, and I have helped a few people in the past, and that is the best feeling, right? So I think going forward, expanding the reach of the channel, you know, speaking to more people, coaching more people, and yeah, that's kind of where I see it, expanding to different social media platforms,
Yeah,
and yeah, just keeping it up, really.
You're
yeah,
you're very consistent, which is great.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, no, I try.
That's
I mean,
one
it,
thing
it,
about
it's
you since I've been kind of following you since you, but you've never kind of had like a period where you haven't really posted. So it kind of does show the passion and you do believe in what you're doing.
yeah, and I think it's fun. Like it's something that I and this is something that I think we haven't maybe spoken about is that I do like helping people. I do like speaking to people and just um having that impact, right? Like I've always liked talking, which maybe is another reason why people have kind of viewed me as confident, where maybe I was arrogant and therefore insecure. I've always just liked talking. I've always liked talking. I've always liked hearing people's problems and trying to help them. Yeah, I think that's another thing that is worth talking about. Just as you get older, I feel like you get more confident, right?
Yeah.
You start to see things, you start to see patterns, you start to understand more about yourself. You know, at my age now, 27, I feel like, yeah, I'm the most confident I've been, right? Kind of socially.
Interesting.
And I think a lot of that is to do with the fact that I've seen a lot of life. I've lived, obviously I'm not like an old man, but you have a better understanding of things just as you live more life, and you're more grounded. And when you meet people, they can sense that. You're not vying for their validation in the same way. You're maybe not as loud or as obnoxious, or you kind of just, yeah, you kind of just become a bit more grounded. So
Most
that's
definitely.
maybe another thing. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of it is social proof as well, knowing what you are capable of socially, what you can do. And that's the whole thing about cold approaching and just doing the reps. I think of it like the gym. I think socializing like the gym. If when
Yeah.
you go to the gym the first time, you're not going to be able to bench 60 kilos. But if you keep doing 40, 50 for so many reps, eventually you'll be able to bench 60 kilos. That's kind of how I see it. And when I wanted to kind of get better at talking to girls, I'd make no excuses. I'd just go and cold approach in the street, cold turkey, and it works because you build up the reps and you figure out what works, what doesn't work. And I used to use, awful techniques like telling awful dad jokes, and it wasn't good at first, but you kind of get better and you develop your own style. So you're right in,
Right.
in that sense, isn't it? It's all about reps and
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, yeah, no, I'd just say that is absolutely correct. It is all about reps. And but also not all about reps. I would say it's about the learning that you get from, because I feel like if you're just doing things blindly, like we spoke earlier about me being in conversations and me kind of observing things and actually kind of almost taking a critical lens when just interacting with people, just kind of having it almost in the back of my mind, when interacting, and kind of just taking things from people, borrowing things from people, seeing maybe the people who other people find annoying. You kind of, it's not so much just that you are doing the reps, it's also the fact that you're aware of what is going on and you're trying to take notes, mental notes of things, and that's how you get better, right?
no, absolutely, absolutely. I think one thing I've noticed where I kind of slip up in social situations is someone will make a comment, and it might not even be targeted at me, but I'll kind of perceive it as being targeted at me, and I'll kind of get in my own head, and then my mood will
Right.
completely change. For the rest of the social interaction, I find
Hmm.
it really difficult to externalize things like that and not
Mm.
take things personally.
Mm.
I don't know how you deal with that, but
Yeah, I think it depends, right? Because if I'm speaking to someone who is completely new to me, right, someone who I don't really have a relationship with, then I'm not going to take their compliment, or like their praise, or their disrespect. I'm not going to take it that personally, because they don't really know me, right? So
neither compliment or
yeah, well, I
that's
mean,
interesting.
yeah, because especially now, um, I mean, I can understand if someone has said something, kind of, I can maybe understand where that thing has come from and either agree with it or disagree, right?
Mm.
But in terms of taking on things that people say, and again, it kind of depends on your lifestyle and kind of the sort of people you're speaking to and in what context, right? But and this is actually a mentality that I've got from my best friend, who has kind of always remained like this. If someone close to you who genuinely knows you is telling you certain things about your character, or your failings, or even kind of things that you're doing well, then yeah, I mean, of course, take that seriously, because that person actually cares for you. That
Yeah,
person
Yeah.
has your best interest at heart, and actually knows you. Whereas, if someone now compliments me, right, I can
Mm.
still take the compliment and be like, oh, well, thanks, and be appreciative, right? But I'm now not thinking that I'm so great just because that person, because I hypothetically I could be a serial killer, right? And
Yeah.
that person is who doesn't know me has just said something nice about me, but it's they're making that compliment, they're saying that compliment, or they're giving you that diss, however you want to say it, kind of frame it, on limited information on you. So, like, it shouldn't really be that much of an indictment of your character if one person who doesn't really know you says something about you, or it could be
You're right
construed
there.
as being about you. Did you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
No,
that's a
absolutely.
really nice point, actually. I quite like that.
Diogo, what do you, I mean, you would consider yourself a charismatic person, right?
I don't know, man.
No.
Depends on the situation, depends on the people. I
I was
mean,
just kind of wondering what you thought, like, what do you think is the most important part of charisma?
of man, I think for anything, I think it's just kind of just it's so easy to say, but it's just that being your. The thing is, I don't like that advice because a lot of people don't even know who themselves are, right? And being yourself is just like what does that mean? Well, I think it's just like kind of just having presence and a bit of calm in situations and like kind of just having that kind of bit of confidence and a bit of grit in yourself that you're not going to let yourself down or that you're going to say the right thing. You have to kind of have that mindset prior and after and during
And do you think
each
that comes with
interaction
repetition?
and each everything in life. I think that's something that, yeah, you kind of teach yourself, man. I don't think, look, as Jordan said earlier, I think trying too hard is the biggest problem, man. We've all met that person that tries too hard to be funny, and it's just like, ugh, or
They do
tries
have
too hard to be
presence though,
liked. They have
undeniable.
presence, man, but it's not all
So,
presence is positive.
so can I just say, so maybe like one thing we haven't touched on when it comes to charisma and being likable and all of this type of stuff.
Mm,
The main thing really is just being aware, right? Being socially aware, being switched on, right?
mm.
Um, Not to the point where you're overthinking. I mean, it kind of depends on your personality and kind of, again, how well you've ingrained some of these habits and like your starting point, right? But being like yeah, being charismatic is a lot to do with being aware of how other people are feeling in that moment. Because, like, for
Yeah,
example, one thing I always say is that we all know that annoying person who, and we've all met this person who, when everyone is feeling kind of, so everyone is just in a just maybe normal, just kind of maybe down mood, maybe just, it's like a Monday morning at work, and you just kind of want to get the day over with or the meeting
yeah,
over with. We all know that person who comes in at 100 miles an hour, and the reason why that person is annoying is because they are not reading the room. They are not socially aware enough or calibrated enough to understand that where they are needs to be in harmony with where other people
yeah,
are in
So it's
order for
essentially
that.
it's essentially nearly an imbalance of them maybe being too themselves, too authentic, and maybe not utilizing, kind of
Yeah,
thinking in the
but
moment about what other people are doing.
yeah, but again, I mean, if that's what you want to be, because obviously that is the flip side of, oh well, I just want to be myself. Then, you know, no one is stopping you. You can be yourself, but just know that by not understanding these concepts and these frameworks, you're kind of blinded in the, other people may not. You might actually also be making, well, you are making the experiences of other people around you worse. So
mm,
when people say, "Oh, I don't care about what other people think of me,"
yeah,
it's like you kind of should, in a sense, because if I'm in an interaction and that person comes away from the interaction feeling exhausted and drained and like I was really rude or like I was really dismissive,
yeah,
because I was being myself, then I admit that's not a good outcome. That's me being selfish in a sense,
Yeah.
because I haven't considered
Mm.
that other person. So it's yeah, there's a nuance.
Why do you think that sociopaths and psychopaths are so kind of naturally, or they're kind of seen, they've got that kind of superficial charm? Do you know, like,
I
you know,
I
maybe,
genuinely don't know, because
no,
so it's said that narcissists are quite charismatic, right?
yeah.
So
And
kind of any
but the thing is with that, as
anyone on
you were
that
harping on
spectrum.
earlier, that's purely self-serving. It's purely self-serving with
Yeah,
narcissists.
well, I think maybe kind of with a narcissist, right? A narcissist is, as you said, self-serving, and so they are going to be aware of all of what they need to do to reach a certain outcome.
Yeah,
And so, if that involves other people liking them or other people trusting them, they're then going to learn how to get themselves in that person's good graces.
Mm.
So but again, I think that's almost kind of high. I don't want to say high intelligence, but just knowing and applying these concepts over time, and kind of learning how to, well, in a
yeah.
sociopath's case, kind of manipulate people.
It's just interesting because you'll hear kind of, the ex of a narcissist. He was the most charismatic person in the world. He made me feel so great. He made me feel so loved. But it was all kind of fake. And that interests me because in the moment, yeah, he was genuinely a charismatic person. So
Yeah.
like, how do we don't really know. It's very blurred lines, isn't it?
Well, you can fake charisma. To what extent is the
What,
But
narcissist who
how
is
people feel is how
what,
charismatic?
they feel, right? Do you know what I'm trying to
the,
say? Like, if you make someone feel good, they're not going to know if that's fake or not until,
But that's kind of what I'm saying,
yeah.
and I'm kind of trying to maybe talk about the difference between that charisma being like, to what extent is that charisma, if it's the charisma of a narcissist, to what extent is that real charisma? Like, I think it still is real charisma, to your point. So I agree with you.
so
Um, yeah,
this is an interesting idea for me. So is there a fine line between what you're teaching and what we're talking about here, where it's like that false charisma, almost taught, almost kind of for self gain, all of this? If you're trying to teach yourself
yeah.
charisma and you're trying to teach yourself that, I mean, to how it sounds to the ear, I mean, it sounds like there's a fine line between those narcissistic tendencies and what you're
There's a
gonna
bit more
teach.
new. There's a little bit
So
more. I think
no,
that
I know it's more nuanced than that, and I'm not saying that anyone that wants to get better at socializing is narcissistic. But if we're going off the point that it's a fake charisma and it's kind of blah blah blah, I
Mhm.
mean, to the ear, to my ear, that sounds like there's a fine line, you know.
But the thing with a narcissist is that they didn't teach them. That's just them naturally trying to get what they want. I don't think narcissists like learn charisma. I think
But
they're
but
just,
but
you know,
but isn't trying to teach yourself charisma and trying to learn that. I mean, you're trying to gain something from it, right? It's
Well,
to try to get something from it.
inherently,
Now,
yeah.
I mean, the question is, when
mhm.
is it like at the expense of other people, and when is it for the
That's
like
a
the
good question.
personal gain?
Well,
Because I think a lot of the time this is for work and this is for like having better connections and making more friends. As positive things in general society. Whereas I
mhm.
think if you're doing a narcissistic, it might be a similar concept, but you're doing it purely for personal gain and forget everyone else.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on the person, right? I mean,
Mm,
you know,
Mm.
I try to look at things in a sort of somewhat of a black and white way, in the
mm,
the tools are the tools. How you use the tools is up to you. If people want to use the information that I give to
yeah,
to trick someone into doing something, or whatever, then you know that that is wrong, right? But
yeah,
that is because they have used that in that way, right? It's not because the tool itself is inherently bad.
yeah,
And then I'd also say that life is about trying to get what you want, right? Like, not in a kind of um, in a
We're
kind of
all
cold, like,
self-serving.
yeah, we're all self-serving,
But
like,
it's as Diogo said, to the expense of others.
but
So
that,
It can
was
be a
that
fine
so
line.
that so you think that's what differentiates someone that's maybe narcissistic and wants to use career like wants to
yeah,
like
well, it
it's
kind of,
how you use it, it's how you use the tools rather than just wanting to learn the tools. Because
yeah.
like going back to the club example, right?
Mhm.
Like trying to get better looking. I mean, it's narcissistic and objectively it's pretty hot. Like I think it's pretty weird and kind of horrible, but there is gain from it. You know,
Of
there
course,
is there is positives from it.
of
But it's
course.
like, but then we look at someone like Clav and we're like, oh, it's a bit of a narcissist. You know. So do you think there's a fine line between like the socializing aspect? I suppose because socializing is for the most part a positive thing. Like
Yeah, again, it
why do
just,
we look at looks in a different way? I don't know. It's an interesting question.
um,
Like
well,
learning these things, which is kind of a new concept, I think. This like self-improvement to the extreme that we're getting at to
Very new
now,
concept.
which is kind of new because there's always been like books. Like I'm sure you've read How to Win Friends and Influence People and all these
yeah.
things. But now like we're getting to these extremes, which I think you're like kind of playing not in a negative way. I actually think your content's pretty good and I think it's pretty positive. But we're getting to these extremes where everyone wants to be the best at everything. So I want to be the best looking, I want to be the most charismatic, I want to be the most social, most blah 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 blah.
Uh,
And yeah, it's a good thing when you look at it individually, but it does it come to a net like is it a net positive to be so hyper focused on always improving on this and that and that?
um, okay, well, I would say a few things. I'd say
Hmm.
the first thing is that if
Quite loaded point, sorry.
if no, if it appears as though you, in doing all of this stuff, think that you are, as you are, not enough,
Yeah,
right? Like, for example, if you meet someone, let's say you're on a date,
yeah,
and she gets the impression that the reason you are so hardworking or whatever is because, you know, without the materialistic things, you don't feel worthy, right?
mm,
Then obviously that's going to be unattractive. And
yeah,
similarly, with the social skills, it's like it should always come from a place of inner strength in thinking, yes, I want to become better. So I'm going to talk about that in a bit. But
yeah. Please do.
like as I am now, I am, don't want to say content, but I accept myself as I am.
Yeah,
And that even if you don't have a lot of money or you're not the best looking,
yeah,
and maybe you might be trying to get better at those things, you might be trying to get better looking, you might be trying to be more confident, right?
yeah,
But if in your core you, or let's say not being confident, but let's say you're trying to uh, make more money and you're trying to look better, right? Those two things. But if at your core, even
mm,
without those things, you still appear like you accept yourself,
yeah,
then of course that is the most important thing, right?
How
When
do
it
you
comes,
how do you feel about how you look? Is that something that you view equally as getting better socially? Do you looks max in a way or
yeah, yeah, I think all of it is important because ultimately,
they do come hand in hand slightly, I think.
yeah, and again, it
Maybe,
depends. It
maybe
depends on
not actually. Maybe
it.
not
It
exactly.
depends. It depends on your worldview, right? And it depends on how you perceive things, right? So ultimately, just in a kind of black and white, cold sense, men are in competition with other men, right? To get resources, to get traction from women. It is, that's how it works, right?
absolutely?
So if other people are looking a lot better, for example, right, then that then means that if you are not also working on your looks, if you're not also in the gym or whatever the case may be, that you are behind, right? That
Mm.
that's that that's just how it goes. So my other point was going to be kind of to the previous Diego, what you were saying before with all of that stuff was that becoming better or like wanting to be better right? Even if just for selfish reasons, if we want to say that you want to be more attractive to get more attraction from women and looks from women, or you want to have more friends, you want to be more likely, you want to be more popular.
Yeah.
That is not inherently a bad thing. That is a natural thing for men. For
Yeah.
and obviously I'm saying men, it's women as well, but we're talking three guys here.
Yeah.
That's the natural thing. If you have healthy levels of testosterone, you should want to compete and do well and attain these things and have status and have women who are attracted to you. And so
Yeah.
if that is going to be the end result of you doing these things, of working on your social skills, of looks maxing,
Yeah.
then you're going to do it.
And who are we to
So
blame? Because it's inherently human. And
I
it's
mean,
inherently who
yeah,
we are.
but to Diogo's point, about are there dangers with this stuff? Of course. I mean, when it becomes commercialized in the sense and it becomes extreme in the
yeah.
way that maybe some content creators portray it, because obviously they're trying to, get clicks and become famous
Yeah.
through teaching other people these things. Then to the extent that it makes other people feel insecure, or then yeah, it's probably not a good thing. But it does uncover just the truth about the world, which is that it is competitive. And like, for example, you mentioned clavicular, right? Him getting better looking and him doing all of these extreme measures, right, has brought him more success,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
what he wanted. It's brought him more attraction from women, which is what he wanted. So in today's world, where if you are, say, you're perceived as being, there's all that talk about if you're an average guy, then it's harder than it's ever been, right? Like whatever you think about that's what people say. So are we then surprised that men are going to these lengths to look a lot better, to have much better social skills, to have way more money? Are we surprised that men are going to these extreme measures when the reality is that if you are average, because everyone is getting better, or the dating market, whatever you want to call it, is getting tougher. There's more single people. A lot more women want to stay single. Like statistically, obviously that means that there are fewer opportunities.
Hmm.
So to what extent is it extreme if that is it is being necessitated by society and by the world that we live in?
Right. I've got a couple points on this. So I mean, we started off by saying when I mentioned earlier about working on this, and I think you said the fundamental point on all of this and all this self-improvement stuff is that kind of self-acceptance, and that's kind of that foundation, right? Because
Yeah.
you can't really truly build a confidence, you can't really build anything if you don't have that foundation of self-acceptance.
Yeah.
But then when we look at it from this view of, oh, men are in competition with each other, and it's a competition to get the girl and to get blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Do you think that mindset that we're kind of developing now, I think specifically in the West, I don't know if this is happening anywhere else, but I know that in the US and in the UK, and I'm sure in the rest of Europe, this is kind of a mindset that we're ingraining on ourselves, and it's becoming exacerbated because of TikTok and because of these platforms and because of people like Clav and etc. Do you think this mindset of this competition, that everything's a competition, is like bringing an angst and like further developing this feeling of inadequacy up amongst men and young men specifically and teenagers, right?
Yeah.
Which contradicts the fundamental point that you made, which self-acceptance is the most important part of self-improvement, right? So surely we can say that this competition and this idea, this whole competition and stuff is actually, and this mindset that we have to get better and we have to improve is actually a contradiction, because you're never going to be able to fill that hole, which is that feeling of self-acceptance, which I think when you mentioned, does that Clav attained what he wanted. He wanted more girls and he wanted whatever from his looks.
Mhm.
But is that really what he wanted, or did he just want to maybe feel whole within himself? And by changing these things, he thought maybe he'd attain that. but it just led to more. I mean, we don't know how he feels on a day to day. I mean, probably
Yeah, I mean,
content
maybe,
with all the drugs he takes, but we don't.
maybe, but I mean, I think the point you're making is, and my answer to that point would be not necessarily, right? So
In what sense?
so
Sorry,
so 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 is the fact that you're aware of the competition and the fact
yeah,
that it is competitive to get these things that you want, right? Whether it's,
yeah,
being popular, having status,
yeah,
being attractive, right? Like these things, you're in competition with other men. Like that is a fact, right?
mm,
Is being aware of that fact, does that then contradict or make you unable necessarily to be
have the
accepting of
contentment.
yourself? No, because you can, and it's what I said earlier, like you can accept yourself, right? And accept where you are, but then also understand that you want to get better. And in order to get the things that you want, you need to improve. That is, but of course you need to improve,
Yeah,
right?
but can you truly improve if you don't have that self that feeling of self-worth and and fulfillment? Because I think what this mindset does, it just creates that constant like sense of comparison where I'm not at the level I'm at because this person, and you're always comparing yourself to other guys, and you're seeing all
Yeah,
this crap on social media, and you're seeing guys at the gym who are bigger or
yeah,
guys at work that are more successful, and that
mm,
constant comparison, you always want more, and you always feel like you need more, so you never fully have that sense of worth. Whereas I think what we could do societally is change how like this is all done, and just being like, I know it's easier said than done, right? But just focus more on really just kind of being okay with yourself, and do have a balance, do the right things, go to the gym, be healthy, but do it for yourself rather than it's a competition to get girls or it's a competition to all this stuff.
yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about that? Can we change that? Is that worth changing, or do you think it's
Well,
necessary to have this
I think
competition?
most of the damage you're talking about is done through social media, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
100%.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of a separate point, or at least that point has nuance in that, you know, like obviously what I'm saying is the competition is natural, and it is the case that men are in competition with other men and women are in competition with other women. Like that is
Yeah.
just the
I
way the
mean, of
world
course.
is. But yes, like the fact that TikTok and these other kind of social media platforms where you're seeing people who are quote unquote better than you, or like better
Yeah.
looking than you, or whatever you want to say, richer,
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're actually better than you, but is seeing that stuff on a daily basis
Yeah.
healthy and good for you? No, right? So multiple things can be true at the same time.
Right.
Um, like me saying one thing doesn't mean that the other thing isn't also true. You know, um, so I think it just depends on your approach and how you respond to these things, right?
So,
Because
yeah.
no, you
Sorry,
go.
go on. I mean, so yeah, it is like this comparison. So what can we do to focus on giving maybe slightly different advice to make people feel more content with themselves? Like what can we do, like
Um, it's
to
it's it's
change
it's
this? Because
it's
I
it's
feel
a, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one because as much as, and again, this kind of comes, I think, with age.
yeah,
You can say nice things to people, and you can try to comfort them and make them feel good about themselves, but the reality is that life, your life and the experiences you have in your life with other people, with women, with money, the world is going to dictate how you feel about yourself, right? Like how you feel about these things. Like your experiences are going to shape that. So me trying to comfort someone and say, "Oh, don't worry, bro, it's fine." If they're struggling to get the things that they want, and life is not being kind to them,
yeah.
right, because they haven't leveled up, or they haven't, they're not at the level where they can attain these things, then that's going to naturally just cause them pain, and they're
But
not going
this,
to feel good about themselves.
but
So yeah.
This is something which gets me because I think if you just unsubscribe from the idea that you have to be X, Y, and Z to achieve what you want, if you just unsubscribe from that idea completely, which is I think ties so much into what you do, right, with the socializing.
Hmm.
If you unsubscribe from that, I think you can achieve or at least get pretty close to achieving what you want, doing your own thing or doing it kind of your own way. I think this idea where it's like you have to be the strongest in the gym and you have to be this and you have to be that. This is a very like it's too black and white to how life really is. And I think if you kind of unsubscribe from that narrative that you set for, because a lot of the time we're setting this narrative for ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, once I do this, I will be able to achieve X.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, in my opinion. I think a lot of the things, especially with getting girls,
Yeah.
I think if you're just like a calm guy, or you're just yourself, which is
Yeah.
actually genuinely like confident and like calm in yourself, you can achieve a lot of the goals without all this kind of like competition and feeling of like having to climb this ladder all the time, you know?
Yeah. I think it depends.
Do you disagree with that? Do you think you need to put the work in? You
Partly,
need to
partly.
put the
I mean,
social work in?
obviously, we don't want to be debating like straw men here. In that, like, I am not saying that you need to be like the strongest in the gym, like the best looking, have
Yeah,
like that's obviously not what I'm saying,
yeah,
and certainly not with respect to being likable or being,
yeah,
having people respond to you well, just in social settings.
yeah,
That stuff is something that I say all the time. Like that external stuff doesn't actually matter really. And the more that you try to brag or show people that you have lots of money or status or whatever like
yeah.
that, the less they're going to actually like
It's a
you,
hindrance.
right? So that's not what I'm saying. But and yeah, like to some degree, if like can you achieve certain things without without being focused on having what people perceive as being the prerequisites of achieving
Yeah,
that thing. Like, yeah, sometimes you can, but the actual reality of life um, is that there is a relationship between getting the things you want and being a certain type of person who is good looking or is charismatic or is wealthy, right?
mm,
Like that's just the way the world works,
yeah,
So I think it's important to because I think when you're saying this stuff, you might even be speaking with an element of privilege in the, you know, someone who maybe isn't as good looking as you, like hypothetically, right?
yeah,
Might be hearing you say, oh, like, just be a calm guy and just be confident, right?
yeah,
Someone might be someone might be listening to that, thinking, oh, well, yeah, I'll just be but like if that same person does that because they're not
yeah,
as good looking as you, right? They're not going to achieve the same result. So so that's what I say. Like, I think, and I was speaking to a friend about this the other day. My approach for life and kind of the way that I perceive life is I try to look at it in quite a, I don't want to say cold way, but quite a matter of fact way, So because a lot of the time, these things that we tell ourselves about the world to make ourselves feel better about the world or about not having certain things, it's just cope. It's just like a coping mechanism, So um, it's important to recognize that and understand those things, and just I guess operate with an element of nuance in the, yeah, of course, you don't need to be the richest or the, and as I've said, when you lead with those things, then you almost seem more insecure. But we can't pretend that it isn't a competition to get the things that we all want, right? That's how competition is defined. We can't pretend that working on your social skills or working on your looks or working on these things isn't going to yield results.
mm,
That's just the reality, isn't it? So yeah, so I think there's like a number of different things and like threads going on here, but I'm certainly not someone who is extreme in thinking that you must be like the most charismatic person or you know, because there are different people. Some people are looking for different things.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, you know, we talked about looks maxing, right? A lot of the looks maxing kind of culture is very kind of Western centric. It's very like a lot of the main like looks maxers are white
Mm.
guys, right? So a black person or an Asian person might be looking at that thinking, oh, I need to, you know, I need to become white or something, right? But
Mm.
that what I'm saying is that there isn't just one form of attractiveness, or there isn't just one form of like a woman's type,
Yeah.
right? So you can be an Asian man who looks nothing like those white looks maxes and still be attractive to women, right?
Mm.
So do you see what I mean? Like so there's not just one ideal or one form of
This is it.
charisma or like or attractiveness or you know
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's exactly it. It's like you can't hold yourself to a standard which not everyone views, because I think a lot of this comes down to like how girls are going to perceive us, right? I mean, it's a competition for women, right? At the end of the day, but I think that's such a nuanced thing. I don't like. There's not one gold standard of what a woman wants. You know, it's like it's such a
yeah
thing, and I think creating that mindset where it's like, okay, I'm not enough. I need to go achieve this. I'm not. I think it's that mindset which actually gets us men further away from the goal we want, and it's not
yeah.
necessarily that complex as we make it in our head.
I
I
mean
think I think of course, don't get me wrong, going to the gym, trying to get better socially, trying to be a nicer person, a more wholesome person, a better person. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's any negative to that. But it's that mindset where it's like, oh, the only way I can do this is if I get that. And it's just like I
yeah
forget what the expression is, but it's like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's not really there, you know. It's just
yeah
it's a
no
never-ending goal.
I definitely agree with you somewhat. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
There's a photo actually as well. I just kind of wanted to know, you to tell the story about it. It's like you and like two girls. I think they're two like blonde girls, and that their eyes are like blurred out.
Oh, oh God, that was in Ibiza. Oh wait, the one where you can see my face.
Yeah, and then there's two girls either side of you.
Yeah, fair. No, that was in Ibiza.
Do you want to just tell I mean, how did that go? Like that whole interaction. What was the?
That was a few years ago. So, um, yeah, so that was at O Beach in Ibiza, and yeah, I just went up to this girl and approached her, and yeah, she basically came and kind of sat with us and her friends. But it turned out that she was so the girl that I was speaking to was quite say like quite rowdy in that she like had too much to drink, and so she yeah, the behavior wasn't great. She started just shouting at people. Yeah, it got weird. It was a yeah, it was it was a funny kind of experience and interaction.
Are you
But
more confident when you're under the influence? Would you say socially as well?
I mean, yeah, probably. I think I'd say most people probably are. I'd say it's
Yeah,
probably better to not be, right. So
but those
um,
learned traits are they kind of more extenuated when you're drunk?
yeah, I mean, I'm to be fair, I'm not a massive drinker. To be fair, when it comes to that type of stuff, I'm not. I've never really been like big into it. You know, I can happily kind of go without. So because I just don't really like the taste that much.
Mm.
So you know, if I'm out with my friends, I'm never the first to be like, oh, should we get some drinks in? And you know, that's not really me. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think certainly alcohol makes it easier, right? And I think a lot of people probably use it as a crutch to you know alcohol and drugs to kind of speak to people,
Yeah.
which isn't good, you know, because you want to be able to work that muscle and learn to actually speak to people, right?
Mm. So,
Um,
so you think alcohol's a negative when it comes to socializing, or a positive in the grand scheme?
I wouldn't put it in that binary of being a negative or a positive. I would
Okay.
kind of just say that, you know, just what I said in terms of there being that nuance of, yeah, clearly it can help you, but at the same time, if you're using that, if you can only socialize when you when you're drunk, then
Yeah.
obviously that's
No,
not
no,
good, you know,
no,
because
definitely.
then what happens when you you're going for an interview or something and you're going to be sober, or you see a girl in the gym or something and you want to speak to her, but you haven't had, 5 pints, so.
Am I kind of overthinking this? Because I'm an overthinker as well. Am I overlooking this? But was you kind of posting that photo? Was that kind of like social proof in a way that, look, here's me with two women? Kind of,
Yeah,
was that the kind of goal
well, I
behind?
suppose, yeah. So first, that was a while ago. But I think, yeah, obviously, when you're on social media and you're talking about something that is related to speaking to women, like a lot of my content now, um, like most of my content, probably I'd say like 80-90% of the content is around just socializing. I've kind of moved away from the sort of dating stuff. But yeah, I mean, if I've made a video on dating, or I've made a post, like
Mm.
when there's multiple pictures and you can flip through and there's text and stuff. If the content is about speaking to women, then it helps that I am there with a woman, right? Because it then draws that person's attention to think, okay, well, the person who, because obviously if it's a post like that where it's like a slideshow, then there's no, it's not me speaking, right?
Mm.
So in order to establish that, not say authority, but just for people to think, okay, well, this person clearly can speak to women, right?
Yeah.
It obviously helps for them to see that I have spoken to women, right?
What I would love to see from you though is maybe, right? I don't know if you'd be open to this. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe with some meta glasses and some real interactions
yeah,
to see the magic kind of
yeah,
raw.
yeah. Well, I think that probably would be maybe a next step. Although I'm not sure about the meta glasses though, in terms of just um, I'm unsure about. I'm not. I don't know. I don't know how comfortable I'd be with just filming random people. I don't know if I don't know if I like that as a concept, to be honest. Like whenever
Yeah.
I see it online, I kind of cringe a bit because I'm like, did that person know they're being filmed?
Hmm.
It's a bit weird to me.
But I
So
would
so
like to
maybe,
see you in an interaction.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Observe
I'm
see
very
how
similar
everything is
to,
applied, you know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm probably very similar to kind of just how I've been just chatting to you guys. I think the main things that I maybe do that perhaps we haven't spoken about is that I will often kind of just like, mirror people in terms of, for example, if someone is quite upbeat, then I will be more upbeat.
Mm.
I will
Is
kind
that a
of be.
conscious thing, or you just kind of just do it? It happens.
Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it is a conscious thing insofar as that it's something that I'm aware of to
Very
the
rare.
point where I can
Yeah.
I can describe it to you now. But um, I don't know. I feel like a lot of being, and this is something that we haven't touched on. A lot of being likable is being relatable, right? So that's literally one of the biggest keys to being likable, to having people like you, right? So what that means is that you know regardless of whether you're speaking to 25-year-old girl from London who is your best mate's girlfriend, or you're speaking to a 70-year-old conservative guy, right? You can be relatable. You can speak to them on almost the same level and have them view you as almost like on their side, or as similar to them, right? So I'd say that's probably one of my biggest like secrets, or kind of skills, I suppose, with
Mm.
social skills. It's just that ability to kind of, yeah, adapt in a sense, regard depending
But
on
let me
who
hit you
I'm
with a
talking to.
scenario. Let's say we're a group of friends, right? And I'm naturally a very upbeat person. I'm always going to be upbeat. And Diogo's naturally a very, very mellow person. And but we're all friends. Which one are you going to choose? How do you decide? Okay, because you can't mirror us both, right? Or let's say it's a newly formed group where you're not close with either of them. How are you going to decide who to mirror?
That's a good question. I mean, it probably isn't like the answer that I'd give probably wouldn't be a binary in terms of, oh, I'd mirror this person or I'd mirror that person. it would probably just be a mixture, and I would almost kind of, yeah, maybe blend. And again, when I'm like, this isn't something that is when I'm doing it is fully conscious.
Yeah.
It's just the vibe of the interaction, right? It's just the vibe. I mean, I think another thing I would say is that when you get to a level where you genuinely are confident and you believe that people will like you, and you just kind of carry yourself expecting people to like you, right? Then it isn't so much about mirroring people. Like that is something that helps, of course, but
Yeah.
you can be, I don't want to say like be yourself, because we've spoken about,
That's
there's
the
obviously
thing.
there's nuance with being yourself, of course, but you can almost lead the vibe of the interaction. Like, you are the person who
Yeah.
brings the energy and sets the tone of the interaction as the
Yeah.
confident person, maybe.
100%.
That's the thing is with mirroring. I don't understand it really. It's just like, isn't it? Doesn't like, is that a thing?
Well, I
I
mean, maybe it isn't, insofar as that we maybe all do it kind of on a subconscious level. But for me, it's something that
It's yeah.
I like when I look back at my interactions and kind of just, yeah, when people kind of really like me,
yeah
I can kind of think back to how I was with them, and I'm like, yeah, it kind of, it makes sense for them to like me, because people like people who are similar to them. And when I
yeah
was
of
speaking to
course
them, we had that kind of similarity, that
yeah
kind of relatability, you know.
But let's
Um,
say you've just joined a new school and you kind of infiltrate a new friend group, right? And there's like six different personalities who are all kind of vastly similar. I mean, what are you going to do in that situation? You
I
have to
suppose you
just
get them
be
individually.
you have to just be yourself, right? Yeah, or yeah, but let's say it's
yeah,
just in that group environment, that group setting. How do you kind of choose who to be? And I guess you say blending, but the
yeah.
more people you get, the more just kind of it just becomes like a
I think when you say it like that, it kind of sounds quite contrived and quite, as if like, oh, I'll just choose to be this person, or it's like,
Yeah.
it,
That's a bit of
ultimately it's a blend of your personality, the vibe of, and the vibe of the interaction, the vibe of the group, right? It's kind of all of this is mixed together. It's not that you are like pretending or choosing to be like someone when you're in a group setting, right? It doesn't
yeah
really kind of work like that. It's more just that at every point you're bringing your personality, right? As someone who is confident and believes that you have value and that you are funny, or that you are, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, you are understanding and reading the vibe of the group, of the interaction,
Mm.
and then kind of slightly adjusting, to varying degrees. That's kind of
yeah
the idea. I mean, I think in group settings, what I've noticed is and again, it depends on the context of the group, and in terms of how maybe they know you, or something. But in group settings, it's very important to just be very relaxed and not do too much, because I think another thing that I've realized, and I think again this comes with age, is that people often tell me that I'm very relaxed. Like, I'm very, even
yeah
though
you
I'm
sense
I'm
that
kind of quite extroverted, and I can be very upbeat, and that sort of personality.
yeah
When I'm speaking to someone, and like in particular, especially when I'm in a group setting, let's say with kind of strangers, even though I'm wanting to be charismatic, and of course, I'm never doing too much. I'm never trying too hard to fill the silence, or to, I'm just very grounded.
yeah
And I think that comes with age, and again, not feeling like you need to um, do the most, because again, it's a group setting. You should only say something. You should only contribute if what you're saying is something that like has value, or is funny, or like something that you wanted to say. Like, you shouldn't just be speaking for the sake of speaking, or trying to be the main character. Just, it should almost just come I want to say naturally, but just so when I say naturally, I mean through again the practice and the inner confidence that you've built over time, right? So when I say that, I'm not speaking about, oh, you just read something on TikTok and you've applied it. As we spoke about in the beginning, it goes a lot deeper than that. In that it's something that you have to internalize and work through to the point where it then becomes natural. In the same way that like Messi dribbling past three players is natural, right? He still had to learn it and practice it, but it comes naturally to him now, you know.
Yeah.
So
What do friends and family think of your account and stuff, your videos?
yeah, I mean they support it. I think I've got a really good friend group and kind of family who, yeah, back me. So I know I'm very grateful for them. Absolutely, I don't know whether I'd still be doing it if I didn't have their support and backing. So
And I assume your expectations of yourself socially have skyrocketed since building a brand around being charismatic.
well, yeah, and again, this kind of what I was saying, or like implying at the beginning. It's like if you have almost when people are telling you you're good at something, right, or responding to you in a certain way, you then have the opportunity to almost build an identity around it. You know, and again, obviously that can be unhealthy, and you can become arrogant or you can become superficial if the things that you're identifying with are kind of materialistic things, right? But yeah, if someone when like having had these experiences and felt like I've done well in them and received good feedback, it then makes me want to double down and actually, yeah, it makes me more confident,
Yeah,
um, which is natural. So
yeah, great. Did you have any other questions, Diogo, or
No,
no?
no, I think, yeah, that's good.
We can wrap it up there.
Yeah.
okay. Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you guys.
Yeah, but
It's
absolutely.
been it's
Yeah,
been
no
interesting.
problem.
I've liked because obviously I just love waffling anyway. So it's been fun.
I'd love to do
Yeah, no.
one in person
Yeah.
with
I mean, you could
unlimited
then you
time.
can you could then observe my social skills and
Yeah,
see if I am actually in fact charismatic or if I'm
exactly.
bored.
And
Yeah, I
with no
think.
time constraints.
Yeah, well, I
Oh,
think.
Zoom, that's a bit annoying. It's okay. Are we still recording?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think as well. Again, because it kind of depends on the context, right? Like so in this conversation, it's been about we're kind of debating almost. We're talking about different subjects, and it's kind of almost an intellectual conversation, and so that is the vibe and the tone of the interaction, right? But if you maybe saw me at a nightclub or you saw me, you know, with my friends just in when we're watching TV or something, I would have a different vibe.